The people who aren't following my Twitter never saw it coming. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special weekend playthrough of Persona 5.
Is it Snowboard Kids?
No, I just said it's Persona 5.
But is it Snowboard Kids?
It's not Snowboard Kids. I think snowboarding happens in Persona 4 Golden, though. Does that count?
They are kids and they are
Sort of.
snowboarding.
Oh, wait, I think that was skiing. Never mind.
Then it's not Snowboard
it's
Kids,
something
is
with
it?
snow.
Okay, yeah. You see, I don't get this because I've never even seen Snowboard Kids. Like, I know it exists, but like, is it really that funny of a game?
No, it's more one of those. It's just kind of a weird thing on Atlas's resume that they don't ever talk about anymore.
Atlas has a lot of weird things on their publishing.
Yes, but they made a kids wacky snowboard game on the N64. Two of them actually.
Anyway, this is a bit of a non-standard playthrough for us. Apart from being set on weekends, it is just me, Ryan, and two guests today. Say hello, Carolina and Clement, in whatever order you feel like, I guess.
Carolina,
Nice.
but I don't mind. It's a normal occurrence for people to pronounce my name wrong. But hi!
How cold is it out? These people can ice skate on the highway.
Hey, it's exactly like Canada right now.
But it's June.
I know it's June. It's hailing outside right now, outside of my house.
Oh, Canada.
Oh yeah. Great Clement here. Hello. Aloha.
This game's music is amazing, and hi everyone's waifu.
Not my waifu.
Well, that's like all of the waifus on screen at once. So yeah, that's almost accurate. I mean, An isn't there. Neither are the non-party members, but almost everyone's waifu is on screen right there.
I don't see much love for Haru, which is very unfortunate because I love her.
She was the one I was
Oh, I
most
hang out
looking
with-
forward to when I came into the game. she
Well,
seemed like
unfortunately, she suffers a bit of Naoto syndrome, and she comes into the game so goddamn late, so a lot of players don't have time to really go through her social link and everything. But anyway, hello! We have ourselves another really stylish title screen. Actually, Persona 4 did this kind of thing first, but Persona 5 just does it better.
Using the word stylish for this game is an understatement.
Yeah. The fun thing about all the animated menus and stuff is that most of the stuff isn't like just animated sprites or anything. It's actually 3D models, which is how you get such smooth animation for stuff like, I suppose, this wibbly red outline highlight thing. Why is that animated? I don't know. Everything is animated in this game.
Because I have to make everything stylish.
And nothing ever sits still. Everything is animated.
Everything must be moving.
It's great. It's a great stylish UI, and it really helps. Like, it really helps because this game is long, even by Persona standards, and that means you're going to be staring at these menus for a long goddamn time, and they needed to make sure that they don't get old. But yeah. Here we go. We're starting off on a new game plus in hard mode for this playthrough, and really hard mode isn't all that much harder than normal mode.
Well, it's one of those things where RPGs on hard mode really aren't even all that hard as long as you know what you're doing, which you are supposed to know if you're doing a new game plus.
Well, yeah, but Atlas games, the hard modes are usually... Don't start on hard mode if you're playing an Atlas game. Just don't do it. You're gonna regret it within a few hours.
Especially for the Shin Megami Tensei series, which I hear are brutal on hard mode regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's not too much harder in hard mode, but the damage output your enemies have and their overall HP is higher. It's a slight buff all around. So,
I love this bit here.
if you say no to this, they do kick you back to the main menu.
And it is Igor's voice actor, right?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Igor's voice actor.
That makes it all the more amusing.
The interesting thing about Igor's voice actor is that people are going to find the change of voice actor disconcerting here, but they changed the English voice actor specifically because the voice actor in the Japanese version was changed, and they changed it in the Japanese version because his old voice actor died. And they turned it into a plot point.
I like his new voice.
Yeah, every time I went to the Velvet Room, I was always super happy to hear that deep baritone, like, "Welcome to the Velvet Room." You know?
It's pretty goddamn creepy.
Meanwhile,
it's
at Neon Knight
but...
Riders.
So apparently someone dropped a chunk of Las Vegas in the middle of Tokyo, and we're gonna steal something from it. And that's your opening setup. Why? You don't know yet. This is kind of one of those framing device things where it starts in the middle
In
and then
medias
goes back
res.
to the beginning. Yeah. They do it. They do it pretty damn well in this game, but it's a little jarring toward the beginning because whenever you start a new confidant, you get a scene with the prosecutor, and you start like all of your confidants toward the beginning section of the game. So you get a lot of those cutaways there, but then it just sort of stops happening after you've started most of your confidants. And the pacing can be a little weird on your first playthrough because of that. Anyway, yeah.
Protagonist!
Our teenage superhero protagonists in this game have actual costumes, which is pretty interesting.
You wondered why it was so hard to hear the voices in the animated cutscenes. What?
There's no problem with that in this game, thankfully. And speaking of the animated cutscenes, they are a lot less jarring here than they were in Catherine, because most of the cutscenes in Persona 5 use static camera angles and stuff. They're a lot more like the cutscenes in the previous games.
I also think the thing is that in Catherine, which was a much smaller budget game, I don't think they were able to blend the general visual style in the game with the actual cutscenes.
That's not really the problem, because the animated quality in-game and in the cutscenes, in the animated cutscenes in Catherine, was about the same as it was here. But the majority
I'm talking about the gameplay matching the style.
I know.
Okay, sorry.
It's the same. They're using the same styles. The problem was that pretty much all of the cutscenes in Catherine were of the fully animated, dynamic variety, where the in-game cutscenes were basically an anime. Whereas in this game, a lot of the cutscenes are static camera angles like they were in Persona 4 and Persona 3, just with fancier models and animation. So whenever there's a real-time cutscene that goes beyond that, or indeed whenever there's an animated cutscene, both of them have that effect that FMVs had in the PS1 days, where it's a special event that makes the, more important cutscenes stick out more.
Yeah. And I always prefer that. Like, I always get excited no matter the game whenever an anime cutscene pops up, especially Persona 5, because you know something awesome's going to happen.
Yeah, but the effect is sort of ruined when the in-game cutscenes are better than the animated ones. Which was the problem Catherine had, and is pretty much the reason games don't do the FMV thing all that much anymore. For some reason, Arsene here, your starting Persona, has third-tier dark magic and physical attacks in this scene, which is not something that he can ever get naturally. So it kind of baffles me. I mean, I realize they were just trying to give you that taste of power at the beginning of the game, but...
I was going to say, you're actually using Personas, I just attacked them and that killed them no problem.
Yeah, well, it takes about 3 rounds, or 3 attacks to kill that thing, so I use each skill once just to show it off.
I almost died!
Technically, yeah, you did. I mean, it's impossible to lose that fight unless you try, but, yeah.
You're on hard mode.
Tutorial battles are easy. The music that we are hearing, get used to hearing it, because it is basically the secondary theme song of the game, Life Will Change. It plays during every big heist in the game. And yes, I said heist for those of you who have lived under a rock for the last year and have no idea what this game is about.
Not that I mind, because this game's soundtrack is godly.
Oh yes, I never get tired of hearing Life Will Change, because I got the Platinum Edition of this game, and I have the soundtrack, oh my god. Great stuff.
The final day of the heist is always awesome, because every time you're rushing to the treasure and this starts blaring, and you're just dodging all the people and running at full sprint, it's just like, oh my god, I feel like such a badass.
Rush.
Yeah.
It just occurs to me that we haven't explained a goddamn thing about this game yet, but, that's fitting because that's exactly what
this
this
is going to be a long
doing.
playthrough. We'll have plenty of time to explain.
As I say, that makes sense considering this is an in medias res opening, so you're not supposed to know what's going on.
What surprised me is that, without going into spoilers yet, when you get to this part of the game, you play through the tutorial section again, beat for beat. Except
that was
kind
of surprising.
Personas during that one fight. Yeah, they just run you through it again, except you have your own personas when you fight that one shadow.
No, that's not how it happened.
At least then you have more context of what's going on.
And to your left, you'll see George Clooney and his cast of 10 other members heisting the casino as well.
Now, this is the first time that the game gives you a hint that it's not a real casino, because you see all this weird shit on the walls. No, this is one of the shadow dungeons, so all of the human-like people in suits are just shadows, and all of the people down there are something like shadows, but not quite shadows. And we'll find out what and why as we go through the game, but yeah, when I first saw this, I thought we were going to be dealing with another case of Persona users wreaking havoc in the real world where just anyone could see them, which was basically the thing that happened in both of the first two Persona games.
We talking Persona 1 and 2, or the start of when people actually cared about the series Persona 3 and 4?
Well, obviously not 3 and 4.
I can honestly say I've played 1 and 2, so I'll know what Lewis is talking about.
I've played them. They've aged very badly in the gameplay department, and I can't get through Eternal Punishment because we don't have the PSP version yet, and the UI for the original PlayStation 1 version is a pain in the ass to navigate.
Yeah, a little.
Those are the only two I still have to play, because I've only played 3, 4, and 5.
To be honest, those are probably the only ones most people have actually played, so...
Yeah. Pretty easily accessible, too.
I love the look the main character gives here, like he's kind of enjoying the chase.
Well, shit.
That's the thing about the protagonist of this game, is that they worked pretty hard to give him a defined personality. So your silent protagonist shoes are, you're getting into a character that exists in the game rather than getting into your own character, which is, I think, if you're going to do the silent protagonist in a JRPG without the big roleplay choices, I think that's the way to go. Give them some expressiveness of their own, and
a little bit like Chrono, really.
Yeah, give the player a reason to resonate with the character that is presented, rather than just giving them a blank slate to project themselves on. That's the way I like to see it in this kind of game specifically. If we're talking like Fallout, sure, let me define the character, because those games let you do that, But JRPGs are much simpler in terms of actual role play in general. So.
You should be able to slip out of those cuffs no problem.
Oh, man.
Dude, what's wrong with your face?
I mean, right now the protagonist is high as a kite off the drugs they've injected to him, so he might not even know he can slip out of those cuffs. This scene is the start of something that I don't blame Atlus for overestimating. But this is a very Japanese game, and I don't just mean, oh, look at how animu this is. I mean politically. This is a very Japanese game. Like, a lot of the stuff you're not going to fully understand unless you have at least a passing knowledge of Japanese social issues.
Yep.
Yeah,
for example.
Even more, I would say even more so than Persona 4.
Well, Persona 4 was just sort of, oh, look at how weird their school schedule is. And they have a really Japanese house, and it's very small. And that was about the extent of it.
And they kept saying senpai and stuff all the time.
Yeah, and that's just a quirk of Atlus's localization, really. But
yeah.
But that's something you can look up on a wiki and understand in like 2 seconds. This, on the other hand, is a knock at Japan's ridiculously high prosecution rate and the suspicion that cops routinely, torture suspects to get bogus confessions out of them.
Well, also the general stigma of doing anything out of the norm in general.
That too, but that comes up more later on in the game. This is the specific issue we're dealing with now. And once you understand that, games like Phoenix Wright start to take on a bit more significance to Japanese culture. Because, you're a defense attorney in Japan.
But that's also a lot different considering most of your clients are called N.O., Mr. Nathaniel O. Sent.
Yeah, but I'm kind of surprised that Atlas didn't put more into the localization for this game. Like, they obviously didn't expect it to do all that well. Like,
Which
they
is
expected
surprising considering how Persona
yeah.
4 kind of blew up after the fact.
They expected the Persona brand to carry it to a certain extent, but not enough to put any real localization budget into it. So the localization is a bit jank here. But, this isn't the first case of a game that's really heavily political in a Japanese sense that's been very successful in the West. I mean, Danganronpa, that's really successful over here now, and nobody even gets what that game is about. It's a very Japanese game. Pretty much as Japanese as this one, just wackier about it. And people love that game. They just think it's all about those weird characters and shit.
Also Monokuma.
Yeah. I mean,
Demon Pooh Bear.
Danganronpa survives in the West mostly on meme culture. I don't think most of the players really get what the game is about. And that's part of the reason I'm reluctant to try it, because I don't get what that game is about entirely just yet, and I want to be able to understand that. Fortunately, Persona 5 isn't a game that you need to research before playing it, because it's about as subtle as a brick to the face about its politics. Yeah, that is... It's
Is that his quote unquote name as far as Persona, as far as Atlas calls him?
Yeah. Akira Kurusu is his official name as of now, based on the manga. They might change it later, but to be honest, they don't change their protagonist names that often. They changed it in Persona 4's case because there was a bit of a potential copyright conflict with I think it was the live-action Rurouni Kenshin movie that was coming out around the time Persona 4 Golden, or the Persona 4 animation happened. So it became Yu Narukami instead of Soji Seita, which sounded a little bit too close to Sojiro Seita for their liking.
I actually named him Akira Kurosawa after the film director. But that's
Akira
just
Kurosawa. Yeah.
So, Clement and Garolina, what did you name him?
I just named him my name,
I named
which
him
is kind
like my name.
Yeah.
Yes, Jamie Senpai.
My brother, who's also been playing this game, he named his like LMAO $$$$$$$. I don't know, something really stupid.
Yeah, with Persona, it's always tricky, because I always name any of my custom main characters just Clement, but this is one of the few games where you actually have to put in both a first and last name. So
actually, the Persona 3 and Persona 4, all of the Persona games actually have a first and last name.
Yeah.
So,
and it's just, everyone else is Japanese, clearly. Like, they have Japanese names, but I'm using my own name, so it's always just like, Jamie-san, how are you?
Persona 5, fairly English story, fairly Canadian story. God, yes, I just brought that horrible abomination of fanfiction back. I think I just ignited a comment war in the below the video. You might not want to scroll down, viewers. It's gonna get ugly. Anyway, this is Sai Nijima.
Ooh, a trivia game? I love trivia games.
Sai Nijima is sort of like a different head placed on top of Catherine's body from Catherine. Catherine with a K, that is, the one who is implied to be a successful career woman. Like, she has, like, the same animations and the same general clothing model, just,
Same general face type as well.
With a different coat of paint. But one of the interesting things about this is that they gave her gray hair and they named her Nijima. And which means they deliberately put her in the same role as, Detective Dojima from Persona 4. Right to the point where, toward the end of the game, you get stuck in an interrogation room with them, telling them the story of exactly what happened. The thing about that is, in Persona 4, when that happened with Dojima, he didn't believe anything.
I had this really dumb theory with Persona 5 going into it, which isn't true. You won't see this in the game, but I had this dumb theory because I saw Makoto Nijima's outfit in all the press coming up to the game, and I assumed, because of the calendar, that this was going to take place in, 2022 or 2021. I forget which year it is that shares the same exact calendar as 2016. And I thought for sure that Makoto was going to be Nanako grown up. And maybe she had to change her name a little bit to go under witness protection or something.
Oh, man.
And maybe she got red eyes because she was in the Shadow World back in Persona 4. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. The shadows in Persona 2 did have red eyes. They were originally supposed to have yellow eyes, but for some reason in-game they had red eyes. It's very strange. But, yeah. The customary blue butterfly thing that signifies that you're becoming a wild card or whatever, it happens a lot more clearly in Persona 5 because of the animation budget. It was very vague in Persona 3, and I think Persona 4 just had the save points as the butterflies.
Yeah, Persona 3, it was definitely more prominent in the answer, which is Aigis' story, because, like, the butterfly actually shows up to Aigis. But I don't think it's really a thing besides, like, save points, and, yeah. In Persona 1 and 2, it's pretty obvious what the butterfly is, but...
Yeah. It's supposed to be either Philemon himself or some sort of connection to him, or something sent by one of his many servants. It's bizarre. You have to play Persona 1 and Persona 2 to even get what Philemon is to the mythos, because he just sort of drops out of the story completely.
Yeah, he's a non-thing in the 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because I really thought at the end of 5 they were actually bringing back Nyarlathotep. I really thought he was becoming the main antagonist, but he wasn't the bad guy at the end.
People thought that about Persona 4 Arena as well, but I don't think we're ever going to see Nyarlathotep again. I don't think we're going to see any really heavy Persona 1 or 2 elements again, because the writing team changed, and when creative changes happen in collaborative efforts like that, the usual thing that happens in Japan is that they just let the old ideas go and do their own thing, because they don't want to mess with someone else's shit. It's sort of the same deal with when a voice actor changes. Like, when a voice actor passes away, they're really reluctant to use that character again, because they don't want to mess with that performance. But eventually, in Igor's case, they had to, so they...
He's kind of too integral to the series in general.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the one servant of Philemon that you can't drop from the story. But they did something really clever with the voice actor change in this game, so that's a thing. I'm gonna have to stick a spoiler warning at the very beginning of this video so that people don't hear that.
Yeah, we'll try not to spoil things before they happen.
We'll try not to spoil things before they happen, but yeah. Sometimes I just can't resist mentioning something that comes into my head. I'm really bad at spoilers. I'm really bad with spoiling myself. Anyway, Potter-kun here. Our main character wears glasses during the day. It's really dubious as to whether or not he needs them, because he seems to be able to see just fine without them.
Hello, my name is Clark Kentis.
There are several points in the game where he doesn't wear them, and he doesn't wear them when he's in the Shadow World, which is where you'd think he needs them.
I don't know, maybe the mask has lenses on it.
Yeah. Sometimes I just can't help but notice little details that probably don't mean anything to anyone but me. For example, the way Kurusu wears his clothes. Something that sets him apart from the other two protagonists, or actually, every protagonist except the very first. Everyone else has, they wear their uniform shirts open. They unbutton their collars. They, have a really relaxed uniform. No, Kurusu here, he wears his uniform nice and good and proper. He looks like a really, really upstanding high school student.
Well, he's got to impress people, considering his status.
Which, as we saw, more or less isn't even his fault.
Yeah, more or less. It's interesting that they gave him such an involved backstory for this game. Like, in Persona 3, you learn about your main character's backstory, but it's not really your main character's backstory. It's your main character got mixed up in the main plot before the game started, and you learn about that as the game goes on. But it doesn't really develop the character. It's more like a reason why your character is important to the story.
And just like Japan, very narrow, confusing streets.
And Persona 4 literally starts with Chie saying, "Oh, so you're just here because your parents went overseas to work?" I thought it was something way more serious. So it's like a non-reason why your character is there. And I think the manga and the anime go into it a little bit during that particular part of the story where your character feels displaced and everything, but it's not really something that the game does. It's just your premise for the main character is, you're a city boy who's been shipped off to the country to live with his uncle in this tiny-ass house. Take that and run with it. And that's it.
Funny how in every anime the parents aren't around, especially in harem ones where they'll have tons of girls over at any given time.
Yeah.
The thing I like about Persona 4 is, if Dojima didn't have to pick up gas that day, he probably wouldn't have been important at all.
Yeah. Anyway, this part of Tokyo is a fictional area called Yongen-jaya, which is heavily based off an actual area with a very similar name. If you explore it, you'll find little areas that look exactly like little bits and bobs of that part of Tokyo, and stores and stuff that have had their names switched around. Like there's one sign that says "Good night, good night." But here it says "Good day, good day," stuff like that. It's a facsimile of an actual area, and if you go to like certain parts of this area, you'll find places that you can find pictures of, photos of online that look pretty much exactly like what they do here. This narrow, cramped alley space here is basically a place that actually exists in Tokyo.
The laundromat in this neighborhood also exists too.
And I'm sure it got tons of business after this game came out.
Yeah.
No, but really, like, what I love the most about this game is that, like, it narrows, it gets Tokyo down really well. I like how, like,
Hang on, hold the phone. Just a second ago I saw a Shido poster. I didn't even know that was there. Huh.
I didn't notice this?
Yeah, there was a Shido poster on the wall over there by the old man.
Yeah.
Huh. You don't actually see Shido's face until very late in the game, so I'm surprised. I guess I didn't notice it early on because I didn't know who Shido was, and I didn't notice it later because I wasn't paying attention to the environment anymore.
My favorite thing about Persona games is, like, after you beat it, and then you do a New Game Plus, you notice so many details, and you notice a lot of upcoming, like, foreshadowing moments that you never saw before, and it's like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and Persona 5 is full of that stuff because they rely on it to tie the plot together. Because this is probably the most episodic game in the series. Like, I say that, but it also has what I would argue is the best plot as well. So, they balanced it really, really well between the episodic adventures and the overarching story. Also, we live in a cafe, and it is run by the voice actor who did the narration for Catherine. Is it any wonder that people got Catherine vibes?
How about some coffee trivia?
Coffee trivia, curry trivia, yeah. There's a lot of stuff from Catherine, they're not. I don't think this game is running on the same engine, but it's clearly using the same kind of graphics assets, the same animation technology, and a lot of the same model stuff. Like, Kurusu here looks like a creepier version of Vincent, who smirks a lot.
Please take care of me.
I'm
Sojiro Sakura here. Interesting things about this guy. He's a pretty cool character, but he wasn't originally supposed to be the guy that you were going to live with. You were going to live on your own in an apartment complex, and it was going to be, coincidentally, the same apartment complex that the Nijimas lived in. So, in a sense, Sainijima was at one point going to be the Dojima, but Sojiro took over that spot and also stole Dojima's social link arcana.
Because of course he did.
Yeah, and they both have to do with coffee. Except Sojiro is an even more Japanese version of that, because he gets pretty heavy into Japanese coffee culture, and boy, it's almost as nerdy as Star Trek conventions.
I'm trying to look up what else this actor has been in as far as the English dub goes.
Well, he seems like he's got one of those voices that has the Steve Bloom effect of wanting to be in it, of people wanting him to do that one voice for everything.
The problem is I'm not finding anything particularly noteworthy. Oh, he was apparently the second Hokage in Naruto.
Oh. Huh.
Okay.
I never watched far enough into the anime to get to a point where the second Hokage had a voice, so interesting. Oh, wait, he probably showed up during the Orochimaru thing, I bet.
Probably, yeah.
I don't watch anime.
But this is anime!
Oh no!
Oh, man. I've said it before, but anime gets a bad rap from the crap in the porn. People need to, watch more of the good stuff. Your Cowboy Bebops, your Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhoods, your What's another good one that gets underexposed? I'm trying to think. I could think of 5 or 6 if I had the time to sit and look, but I'm trying to talk without stopping here. Commentary is hard, guys.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, yeah, you do have to spend valuable time slots cleaning up this goddamn room.
Oh, he was Barry Burton in a few things.
This is, pretty much the exact opposite of the welcome that you get at the beginning of Persona 4, and Persona 5 does that a lot. Like, you don't have to have played Persona 4 to appreciate the game, but if you have played Persona 4, the juxtaposition between this game and the other, and the game will remind you multiple times that they take place in the same universe. It's something to behold at times. Like, this attic room, it's so drab. It's so it's like you would not want to live in this room for a year. And when you finally clean the goddamn thing up, it's like, okay, I've managed to make the most of a shitty situation, but
now I have to go.
Yeah, it's gonna stay shitty until like the end of the year.
At least Dojima cleaned up the guest room. Jesus.
Dojima was nice enough to give you a television.
Yeah.
Specifically so you could watch the Midnight Channel.
Yeah. In this game, you have to buy one. Like, you have to go to the secondhand shop across the street, get this crusty old CRT television and an old DVD player. And eventually you get a retro video game console, which was pretty neat. And that's pretty much your entertainment. And, like, even your desk is this rickety old, like, workbench thing that you just sort of use as a desk.
Hey, whatever works.
It really makes you appreciate having a real bedroom in the real world. Oh, man.
That's always important to have, honestly.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes my real bedroom is this messy, but...
Your real bedroom has a ladder in it?
Well, not necessarily a ladder, but...
Gasoline canisters? A bicycle shoved into the corner?
Whatever takes up space,
I like the stuff that they do with this room, though. Like, I never used it during my playthrough because the gym was just more effective, but one of the things they let you do later on to increase your HP and SP is pull up a chair and just do pull-ups off the ceiling beams.
I'll be honest, I've never done that once. I've always wanted to focus on doing other things.
Neither have I.
Well, going to the gym and chugging a bunch of protein gets you a better payoff. You just have to pay for it when you do that. But you can't do that until you reach a certain rank with Ryuji. It is actually worth going in for a few gym sessions to get your SP count up, because as usual, and this is always the protagonist's weakness, your SP count as the main character is a bit crap. Which is how they balance out the fact that your main character can do fucking everything.
Sojiro's voice actor was in an episode of Frasier. Thanks, IMDb.
Really? Okay. Anyway, yeah, we actually get some flashbacks about your main character's story.
Protagonist!
Now, I don't think this kind of thing would necessarily happen in America, but it is a viable thing in Japan. Teenagers, especially teenagers that aren't established, really, really excellent in school and everything, will have a hard time, making their case against adults, particularly ones in places of authority. It's kind of it's not something that doesn't happen in America, but it's something that's more prone to happen in Japan.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. We more have a protect the children stance, whereas in Japan they have a more of a get in line stance or get in troubles.
Yeah. An interesting thing about this particular opening, though, is that it's really coded to being a male main character. Because, as usual with Persona 4, like with what happened with Persona 4 Golden after Persona 3 came out, like, people asked for a female protagonist, or they expressed interest in there being one, which wouldn't have really changed the game in Persona 4's case, but you'd basically have to rewrite the entire beginning of the game to accommodate it in this case. And I'd like to see them do that in a future release. I'd like to see how the story could change from that differently written starting point, I suppose. But in this case, playing as a teenage boy actually, means something to the story rather than just being something that happened because Well, the protagonist in an anime is almost always a teenage boy. You know?
Well, they have to be, guys, or else how are they going to get all those, love interest girls on screen prancing around in scantily clad outfits?
The fan service.
Well, Persona hasn't, it's not unheard of for a female protagonist.
I know, I'm joking about anime tropes in general.
Yeah, I suppose. It's just, Persona's done it before, twice. In fact, it was going to do it in the original Persona 3 at one point, which is why they brought the idea back for Persona 3 Portable. But they did it there mostly so that they had an excuse to improve the game without actually changing it. Like, they knew stuff that was in the original game wasn't as good as in Persona 4, like the social links and everything, but they didn't want to change the social links in the main game, so they made a second character and gave her all the good social links.
So I'm assuming there's an app with that icon now.
Probably. There's a website that actually imitates the Phantom Aficionado website down to a T.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's pretty good. But yeah. One of the things that I do like about Persona 5's protagonist is that instead of doing the thing Persona 3 and 4 did, where it's like you're tired or you are seeing this thing or you think this about this particular thing, he thinks He thinks in first person, basically. Like, I'm feeling tired.
Who talks in second person? I know lots of famous people like to talk in the third person, but never second person.
Yeah, it's just like, they changed it so that your character is actually thinking all of these things, rather than the game telling you these things. And I think it makes a pretty nice difference to the way you view your character as you play the game. It's a little change, but it's a little change that means a lot. Anyway, Caroline and Justine. You will learn to love and hate these two by the end of the game.
Are we going to do their optional boss fight?
Eventually, yeah. It is New Game Plus, so it's available.
Gotcha.
Yeah, as is the Persona tradition, Persona 5 does have an optional boss fight against your Velvet Room attendant, and you can only access it on New Game Plus.
I like that it's easy to access this time around. It's not like Persona 4, where you have to go out of your way to build up that social link and talk to them at this very specific moment, It's like in Persona 5, as soon as you go to Mementos, it's just, oh, you want to fight? Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty much. In Persona 3 and Persona 4, like, originally the Velvet Room boss fight was something that you could only access in New Game Plus. In the re-releases, I think, in Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden, I think they made them accessible on your initial playthrough of the game, which,
I want to say Golden doesn't, choice, but I haven't played it in a while.
Yeah. Well, Golden also has that fucking annoying extra dungeon that you get if you max out Marie's social link. Hey, if viewers, you want a quick way to kill your interest in Persona 4 Golden? Actually play that dungeon. It's horrible. I have no idea what they were smoking when they designed it.
Hey, just avoid the enemies and go for the boss.
It's hard in ways that are frankly unfair your first time playing through the game. I don't really recommend going through it unless you really know what you're doing. Okay. Yeah, this is, of all the games, this is the one that goes into the nature of the Velvet Room most directly. Because, like, you hear things about the Velvet Room over the previous two games, and the Velvet Room just sort of exists in 1 and 2. But Persona 5 is the one
it's literally in the shopping mall.
Persona 5 is like the one that really goes into it over the course of the game. Like, you learn things about it, and by the end of the game, it becomes integral to the plot. So yeah, I think it's interesting that they did that they finally touched on it in big ways that give the Velvet Room its own identity apart from being vaguely connected to Philemon in some unspecified way.
Try and struggle as hard as you like. The duty of wardens is to protect inmates. We are also
Okay.
I do appreciate at least a slight effort of trying to change the lip sync a little bit to match the English version.
Somewhat, but the thing about that is the Japanese voice acting is still available in this version of the game. You have to download it. It's a free DLC. It's not on the disc or anything, but it's something that you can select. I can't play the game with Japanese voices, but it's just a quirk of myself. I tend to try and read the text and listen to the voices at the same time, and my brain gets scrambled. I can't pay attention quite as well, so I like to leave the English voices on.
But, Lewis, that means you're not a pure person who likes to watch with subtitles.
I don't like
Japanese
subtitles. Subtitles are distracting. They draw my eyes away from the
So we know which side of the sub-V dub debate you're on.
Well, it's not that either. I'd like to watch the shows in their original Japanese. The problem is that I don't know Japanese. And I want to learn it eventually, but that takes a long goddamn time to do. And,
I shouldn't have to learn a language to enjoy a cartoon.
Well, I'd like to learn it for other reasons, too. Like, at some point, I'd like to, take a trip to Tokyo or Osaka or name another big, high-profile Japanese city and, enjoy the sights and stuff.
And then you're going to spend 95% of it in Akihabara.
Although, honestly, you don't need that much Japanese to get through Tokyo, since it's such an international city anyway.
Yeah, I know, and a lot of people in a lot of people in Japan are at least have a passing knowledge of English, so it's not that it's not as big a deal as if I wanted to go to France.
Yeah.
And didn't know French, but
that's purely limited to Tokyo, though. I hear once you leave general Tokyo area, it declines rapidly on. I don't want to say use the word friendliness, but I mean I think better word is accessibility for foreigners.
Yeah, but I would still like to be able to hold a conversation in Japanese if I ever went to Japan. So, yeah.
Which way to Akihabara?
It's so many people's favorite waifu.
Wilson Fisk?
Yes, that's exactly who I meant.
When I first saw Principal Kobayakawa here, my first thought is, why is Wilson Fisk wearing the 11th Doctor's suit? Because that's what it looks like. He looks like Wilson Fisk. Fisk is dressed up like the 11th Doctor.
Also, hi, Principal Kingpin.
Someone compared him to a cut potato, and I just, lost it.
I'm more comparing him to Kingpin from Spider-Man / Marvel in general.
One of the things that I'm going to say that this game is very good at, it's setting up Sojiro and Ms. Kawakami here as characters that you don't necessarily like at the very start of the game. One of them is a little too hard on you, and the other is just whiny. But both of them have, very involved storylines as confidants. So...
By the way, Lewis, you were correct in your earlier pronunciation. According to how they speak things in this game, it's Kawakami.
Huh.
I'm joking.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird pronunciation that I would think it would be the opposite way.
It's not Sakamoto, it's Sakamoto.
Yeah, I wanted to say Sakamoto so much.
They do that. Throughout this game, there's some weird pronunciation. There's some borked grammar in the English writing that voice actors on occasion have to actually read out. And you'd think at that point they'd say, no, that's not right. And the director would be like, oh, okay, let's change that take. But no, Kamishita was a scum. Yeah, sure, let's go with that.
So Kawashima was a scum and Jeremiah was a bullfrog?
Oh, what? I don't get it.
I'm referencing an old song.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just like there's some weird wording in places, and it gets worse in the parts of the game that were obviously written by the B team or localized by the B team. Apparently, they had very few translators on this game, but a whole fuck ton of editors, from what I've heard. You'd think the editors would catch basic grammar errors, but apparently not. Oh well.
What a troublesome situation.
I've never seen anyone in a jean skirt in the real world.
Male teacher would be better suited for this.
I've seen them a bit.
It's just not in fashion in the New Jersey area, I guess. Like, I know jean skirts exist, but I've never seen one.
I definitely, in real life, had a teacher when I was in the mid-2000s who wore pretty much the exact same outfit Miss Kawakami wore. Like, same lawn sweaters and a jean skirt, so it happens.
It just looks gross.
Blasphemy!
Anything jean patterned.
You like jorts?
Oh no, fuck George.
Something I should be saying as a teacher.
Well, I should be returning to practice.
If she wasn't way too old for my main character, I would think her fashion was quite charming, and I would date her on that principle.
Having such high expectations.
Well, what's stopping you? The game lets you do that.
She's too old for the main character.
Well, Clement, you're saying you date the principal. Ew.
It's a weird quirk of this game, though, is that it lets you date all of the older women.
I'd have to be
And,
Yeah.
like, most of them, mention that they're, reluctant to do that, or at some point. But the doctor gets downright creepy. I haven't done this in-game, I've watched it on YouTube. But, like, she gets, like, really seductive hot nurse in a stereotypical way at you. And I'm like, okay, no.
You brought it on yourself, though.
Eh.
You were expelled once already.
I guess they allowed you to do that because, the character that you're playing as is supposed to be
That's what it was like at
kind of a sort of criminal.
troublesome kid.
Like a delinquent, at least. Not necessarily criminal, but bucking the social norm. And not necessarily in good ways all of the time.
It's not like I wanted to take you in, but Baka.
Sojiro kind of is tsundere toward the main character for a while. He softens up toward the midpoint, end point of the game after Futaba shows up. But
Yeah, the interactions here are so different from the end of the game.
yeah, it's I like that. It makes the end of the game in a way become more impactful. And if there's one thing that the end of the game does do well, again without getting into spoilers, is
I'm on
that
a runaway train, never turning back.
the game does a good job of, by the end of the game, it makes you care about the characters, and it gives all of them an excellent send-off. At least if you made it to rank 10 with them.
Yeah, again, without spoiling anything, I think what they do with the social links in regards to the main character are a lot more interesting than Persona 3 and 4, because in Persona 3 and 4, they just sort of they give you the well wishes and power to defeat the final boss.
It's literally just power of friendship, though.
Yeah. But in 5, there's actually, a plot thing that happens to the main character, and all of your social links all work together to do something, and it's really heartwarming and uplifting to see all that, all that time you spent with them actually amounts to, helping your character out, which I thought, that's sweet.
By your powers combined, I am Captain Persona.
They are pushing the Persona 3 connection a bit with this train accident here, because it's not the same thing as what was happening in Persona 3, but Persona 3 did start on a train, with the delayed schedule and everything, and it was people going all bug-eyed and having their faces melt into black goop and everything, and it was kind of weird. They're trying to push the same sort of feeling with these mental shutdown cases.
Yeah, it's not apathy syndrome. People aren't getting all monotone and emotionless before they die, but...
Well, the difference between apathy syndrome and the mental shutdown cases is that the mental shutdown cases are being deliberately caused.
Yeah.
And this isn't even a spoiler. They make it really goddamn obvious that this guy is connected to it. He's... Very early on, they establish him as an obvious bad guy connected to an even more powerful bad guy.
Just has a random whiteboard in his office.
Well, that's probably just standard office equipment, really, but...
Alright, so standard Japanese-developed police station procedures have to put the ruby in the statue and move it around so I can get to my office.
Well, this isn't the, I don't think this is the police station. This is the prosecutor's office, which is a different place.
Okay, so it is an entirely different set of puzzles.
Yeah, so this is the place that turns into the casino, basically. And the police station is established as being across the street from it, which is an important plot point, actually. Anyway, Goro Akechi. Whose name does that sound like? I'm just going to leave that question hanging there. See if you can answer it in the comments.
I hope it's not that obvious.
These damn detective children who are so freaking smart at their age that they're in the police force. I mean, come on.
The criminals would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for that meddling kid.
Alright. Well, Tokyo traffic sounds nightmarish. Not quite as nightmarish as Tokyo subways. And that's like the one thing that appears in like every anime ever, and like every video game ever, is that if you see a subway in Tokyo, it's like jam-packed with people. But they turn it into an actual gameplay mechanic of sorts in this game, where on certain days you're very, very lucky and you can actually sit down on the train. And if you happen to have any books, you can read a chapter of the book and without wasting a time slot, which is actually a really handy thing for boosting your stats. So always keep some books on you and just save them for lucky train days.
Well, I'm off. I'll lock the place up. So do whatever you want for the rest
Whatever I want, huh?
of the store. If something goes missing, I'll hand you right over to the cops. You got school tomorrow.
You know, I was half expecting like a scene to occur later in the game where Sojiro just lost something and blamed the main character for it. But no, it never happens. Sojiro isn't that dumb.
Yeah, so the adults aren't all worthless in this world.
Well, that's actually okay. That's a main theme of this game, and it's surprising until you consider that in Personas 3 and 4, you were always basically being misled by the game until about the midpoint or the late game sections, and you would find out what was really going on, and then you'd have to react to that. In Persona 5, it starts off as this kind of fuck all adults, they're rotten story. But then by the middle of the game, the victims of the people you're going after are adults themselves, and the adults in the story become more prominent and important to the plot. So it's like you're growing up and learning, hey, you know, I wasn't entirely in the wrong, but my worldview is a little skewed and biased here. And I thought that was a nice touch. Atlas can be somewhat subtle when they choose to, it's just that they don't choose to very often in this game.
Well, they're known for their really big, kind of bludgeoning it in your face style of doing things, so that's kind of what they stick to.
The less said about Mara, the better. Alright. It's actually kind of... Okay, people in America just find the Dick Demon weird, but the Dick Demon and its lesser-known cousins, the Vagina Demon and the Tits Demon, they're all like some sort of weird public statement against Japanese censorship. Because you're not allowed to draw genitals in Japan, or at least you're not allowed to show them, unless they're explicitly not that. But they can look like them, they just can't be that.
I never saw that line of dialogue before. That line of dialogue. Sorry, I don't normally keep guys' numbers on my phone.
It's kind of understated, but Sojiro is a ladies' man, like a really he talks like vaguely about like how in his younger days he got all the ladies and whatnot.
Dude, with that suit, of course he's a ladies' man.
With that really nice hat.
It's like, if you decide to do the obviously shitty thing and date everyone at once, the Valentine's Day event basically involves Sojiro covering for you in the end. So that, you know, even though it looks like an unsalvageable situation, it's not. Because Sojiro goes to each of them in turn and tells them, like, he talks about you all the time. You're his one and only. He goes to all of them and does that for you. Every single one of them. Of course, they leave you lied out flat on the floor and you don't get any of their chocolates, but... it's just this dumb sort of... The situation exploded, but Sojiro bailed you out of it. And the fact that he bothered to bail you out of it, says something about him in its way.
Yeah, so it didn't turn into a nice boat situation.
Actually, the Persona games, if there's one thing they've gotten progressively better at with each entry, it's like making you feel really bad for being a cheating asshole. I mean, even Persona 3 does it, and Persona 3 is the game where it's basically required for 100%.
Yeah.
There's that creepy app again. Time to delete it again.
It didn't work before, but it'll work now.
Of course it will.
And it's like, they give you the option to think, oh, that's so goddamn creepy, but, you know, I would be thinking, my phone's got malware. Gonna have to take it into a shop tomorrow.
Yeah. Fucking hackers, man.
Yep. Well, that's the end of part 1. We'll see you all tomorrow for part 2. This playthrough will run on Saturdays and Sundays, and there might be schedule hiccups in the uploads, but we'll try to keep things consistent, because unlike our usual routine, this is being uploaded as we record. Because if we waited until I finished recording the game to actually upload it, we would be waiting until 2018. And I don't want to wait until 2018. I'm too impatient. I love this game too much.